All right. Hello there, and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Hopefully I got all my audio stuff reconfigured. Last time on Plugin Along, we looked at StretchMode and how we can use it to make our melodic interlude UI size customizable. And it's not just a melodic interlude, you can use it for any UI. That's just what we were working on. And this time, I want to go ahead and keep working on the MinstrelBuff plugin and see if we can make the default theme for MinstrelBuff a variable size to accommodate more than 3 anthems. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and bring up what I'm talking about. Farrell then would like to hire me for the Runekeeper plugin, which tracks healing on others. That is ambitious. I have not really gotten into playing a Runekeeper. I love the idea of the runestones. They throw them down and it explodes and it looks really cool. But I've just never been able to pull myself away from playing minstrels long enough to really understand what's going on there. My subtitles might be a little weird, but it's live subtitling, so it's always an experiment on what's going to happen. Let's see. And Lord Zach says hello, hello. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the MinstrelBuff plugin that I've been adapting for my purposes. When you first load the MinstrelBuff plugin using the plugin manager, it appears in the upper left corner of the screen. And using your unlock UI, in my case control \, we can go ahead and move some of its windows around. Let's see. There it is. And one of the things that we want to do is go ahead and activate some of these new features that I've been adding, but they are off by default. So for instance, soliloquy tracker, yeah, sure. Show war speech timer, show melodic interlude window, that's great. And the thing that we did last week was to take advantage of stretch mode to allow us to go ahead and take a thing that we're drawing on the screen and make it arbitrarily bigger. Now, this is merely stretching the whatever is in there. It does not go and find a higher resolution image. So we can see these icons are starting to look a little pixelated, and as we keep going, it's just those same pixels just getting stretched. Now, it's not bad. Like, I don't think that looks bad at all for what it is, but it's not exactly high resolution here. It's just big. But that's okay. You can allow a user to kind of determine for themselves how big your UI is going to be with very little effort, as we saw last week. Enabling the stretch mode, the most complicated part of it was adding the scroll bar itself to the settings. Once we had that, it was just a matter of updating the size with stretch mode turned on, and that was that. Okay. So, I believe there are people out there who use themes that are not the Windows standard, just sort of the default theme that comes up. And we can cycle through them here a little bit and see what they're like. But I do use this standard theme, and I thought this would be a good place to start to say what happens if you have 4 anthems. Now, it might have been, when this theme was first designed, that was not possible. But it is possible now, especially if you are in a fellowship with another minstrel. You can have someone coming in as a yellow line or blue line minstrel who have maybe not so much overlapping. Yellow line really has access to the most anthems. And because minstrel anthems usually affect other members of the fellowship, you can have, if you're red line, you have your 3 anthems, and then someone can come in with their 4th anthem, and it just sort of sticks off the end of the UI here. Now, it's hard to replicate that at the moment because, I can do the first 3 anthems, but getting that 4th anthem on there is a little tricky. Now, you can force it if you go ahead and switch over to your other stance. you get a different version of the anthem of the third age, in this case, resonance. And then you just have to get that anthem on there before the first 3 expire. So in that case, we can use a healing version of Major Ballad to go ahead and get us the ability to do an anthem. And there we go. So this is the problem we're trying to address. Is right now, you get that 4th anthem, the plugin tries to put it there, and in fact, it does put it there, but the drawing of that timer stops at the edge of the window. The icon still goes. That's pretty cool. Lord Zach asks, what happens if you load MinstrelBuff on a different class? Farthen replies, nothing. And it's possible that the plugin itself doesn't even care. It is possible to care and say, oh, this isn't for me and I'm going to exit. But if we come into the main.lua file and just scroll up to the top here, all right, we have a local player. That's where we might be able to care about what is our class. No. So it does not appear that the MinstrelBuff plugin cares. You can load it, but all of the things it's looking for the most part, are not going to happen. Now, if you're playing with minstrels, you will see their anthems pop up on this, presumably. Well, Zach saw something in an if. Well, let's go check. All right, local player. So we have an in-combat changed function for self. That's not an if, but it is a block. We have some callbacks. Oh, you're right. I blazed right past it. So in the show window function, we do check to see if the class is minstrel. What if it's not? Well, what are we doing? Okay, we're paying attention to your stance changing, which we don't care about if you're not a minstrel. And we're adding callbacks for various minstrel-specific skills. That's a reasonable thing to not try to do if you're not a minstrel. I'm totally good with that. Though it's funny because we're checking to see if you've got the skill. These are trained skills, yeah, skill list. So this should be pretty much inoffensive to run if you are not a minstrel. You just will not, none of your skills will end up being valid codas, cries, or major ballads. But they are excluding non-minstrels. Why not? Maybe there's some sort of a bug that they're trying to avoid. So yes, if you were running this, I wouldn't think that this is as useful for a non-minstrel. There are certainly other plugins like a Buff Monitor, I think it is, that will show you that you have these anthems. So I wouldn't necessarily run with this if you weren't a minstrel as a way to showing that you have these anthems, because while it will do that, there are other plugins that probably do that specific part better. Especially if you have no control of it as a non-minstrel. You either have it or you don't. And that's sort of the thing that you care about. But if you are a minstrel, then it's also going to be showing you how many ballads you have active, and now with some of these extra improvements we've made, how many of your war speeches are active. Can't do that in this stance, though, or trait. So how many war speeches we have active, we can see right now we have 2 of them active. Right now we have 3 of them active. Those are great because they're giving you that plus 5% tactical damage for stacking up to 3 times. So things like that are an extra benefit to the MinstrelBuff plugin, whereas just tracking whether or not you have an anthem, it's probably not the right plugin for you. That being said, it is possible to have more than 3 anthems. And so what I'm interested in doing is looking at this window and figuring out how can we draw it. So there's a left side, an arbitrary number of middle pieces, and a right side. Or maybe we need to divide it up into 2 pieces, the top and the bottom. I'm not sure. Yeah. So that's my main thought here is, instead of just having a single background image, do we either make it flexible or do we recreate this in the shape of 4 or 5 pieces? Maybe that's the easiest, and we just call in the correct background for and use the correct size for that. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like in an image editor. So we're going to go ahead and open up in Explorer window, go to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, and this is MinstrelBuffs, and this is going to be in MinstrelBuff window, probably Themes? No, Resources. There we go. Then we just have to figure out which of these mini files it is. So we have files MB Anthem background, we have all the drag bar stuff, we have MinstrelBuff bar background. That's fun. So when I can't remember which one of those images is correct, and I don't want to just go open them all, let's see. It's possible that the Visual Studio Code LOTRO extension, LOTRO API extension, can, or some part of this can show me these things. So let's come on in and just left click. Oh, good, we get some sort of a render. Well, Linderwater, if that was you, thank you very much. Okay, so let's scroll on down. Okay, we got MB Anthem background fixed. Okay, we have different background. Aha! MinstrelBuff bar background. That's something. So it looks like it's just MinstrelBuff bar background. Great. So we're going to go ahead and open this up with just whatever you have that edits images. In this case, I'm going to use the GNU Image Manipulation Program, or GIMP for short. And Lord Zach says UI in this seems much easier than in the game. They're trying to mod right now, which uses Unity 3D files. Yeah, for good or for ill, we're just working in a nice 2D plane here. And while it might be really interesting to be able to render 3D objects from within a plugin, I'm going to say that would definitely complicate things, yeah. Okay, so this is the image file that is being used as a background in the game. Let's see, can I rearrange the game so that we can see this up here maybe? There we go. We can kind of visually compare and say, okay, yeah, that looks the same. So what do we want? We want to be able to make this wider. And we want to be able to make it wider by a certain amount. I'm already covering up my, there we go. So specifically, we can see, and when I'm playing around with this, it might be easier if we have a background that's not this checkerboard pattern. So you can either turn off the checkerboard pattern, I think, or we can just add a new layer and just call it white background. And we'll just go ahead and do a solid color fill here. There we go. Okay, so it's maybe a little bit easier to see which pixels we care about and which ones we don't. If you're not familiar with programs like Photoshop or GIMP or other layer-based programs, these are being composited together on the screen and might be squished together in a final file. But until then, these are each separate layers, and you can play around with them separately, do edits to them, and you only get a single layer of pixels in the final result, which is very handy when you just want to do stuff playing around like this. Okay, so this is the thing we want more of, both the space for the anthem and the space for the timer underneath it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, paste it into a new floating layer. And we're just going to call that, copied from the wrong layer. That happens. So you're copying from whatever layer you have selected. In this case, it's those pixels I want. We're going to go ahead and make that a new layer called fourth anthem. And you know what? Let's go ahead and paste it again and call it fifth anthem. Cool. Now, we know how big this is. That white background is causing me problems. I'm just going to get rid of it. I thought I could sneak by, but it's okay. So we know how big this copied area is. So fourth anthem, fifth anthem. Oh, it is. I'm concerned that the opacity is coming into play here. What's it look like in game, huh? What kind of opacities do we have? It definitely looks darker. Okay. Lord Zach asked, question, would we see this UI anthem received from... Fairthon says no, but I believe you do see anthems from other minstrels, or at least the anthems that apply to others. Fairthon says the plugin looks after the anthems you created. I think, Fairthon, that is currently not correct, because the plugin looks at an effects list and just looks for things that are anthems. So if you have an effect on you, the current iteration of MinstrelBuff does not care where that came from. So I believe that that is the case. Now, I don't know if Little Redhead has a minstrel on this server. I think she does not. But, let's see. Do I have any friends online? That's the problem with a server going to closure. Lord Zach says that you're on my server. I'm actually currently on Anor. If I was on Treebeard, it wouldn't be a problem, and perhaps I'll switch over there to make this a little bit easier to demonstrate. But I believe the answer is, because of the way it works, it's looking at effects added and effects removed, but I don't believe that we actually even know where an effect comes from. Anyway. So I'm looking at this, and we're definitely seeing some partial opaqueness going on here. And I don't think we actually want that. So when we're looking at just one of these layers, if we go ahead and do a selecting on... there's a way to select based on the current color. There we go. Select by color. Well, that's a really high threshold. I just want a contiguous block.
No, but I could make one.
That's okay. I'm hearing an offer to make a minstrel in the background, and I think that is not going to be necessary right now. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and trim out those extra opaqueness for right now. We'll put a pin in that and come back. Okay, so we have what we're going to need for our fourth and fifth anthem spaces. That says full mini party. Absolutely. If nothing else, every minstrel trait build has their own Anthem of the Third Age. So you can get 3 different anthems just like that. You also have Anthem of War, Anthem of Composure, and also Anthem of something something that comes from Yellow Line. Anthem of Prowess. So there's at least, I think maybe currently 6. Berthan said, sorry about that. Tried it out once, could be wrong. No worries. I'm working on memory as well. I don't have a live demo here to demonstrate one way or the other. But I'm going to say that this problem pops up precisely because, well, really only Yellow Line minstrels can get that fourth anthem easily. If you're partying with another minstrel, it's quite common to see 4 of them pop up or more. Oh, and that reminds me, we should have a 6th anthem for that very reason. Okay, so we've got 6, 5, and 4, and now we have this. So what we want to do is we want to make the background wider. Now, if we had the original image file, this would be perhaps a little bit easier, but we're going to start with how wide is this piece that we want to add in. So we have scale layer can give us the size. It's 40 pixels wide. Great. I'm going to actually just write that down in a little notepad, well, Sublime Text, but a little text file. So we know we want to go ahead and canvas size. We're going to go ahead and make this thing 40 pixels wider. Okay, so we just made this 40 pixels wider, and we know our fourth anthem, we want that to be positioned like this. In fact, maybe we want to go ahead and pre-position those entirely, in which case we just want to make the whole image 80 more pixels wide. Okay, so that's going to be 278, resized. Great. So, sixth anthem, just move it on over. And after 4 and 5, we've got 6. So this is how wide this window could theoretically be with different anthems. But in sort of the compact mode, we don't want to do that unless we have to. Oh, looks like that one didn't move quite far enough. Okay, so this is sort of the end game, is we want to support one that is 6 anthems wide. Lord Zach asks, is Athel short for Athelos, the healing herb? Yes. Hobbits traditionally, in Lord of the Rings, online anyway, have names that are related to plants or gems, and Athel seemed like a good plant reference. Obviously, a nickname, full name of Athelos is a little, a bit of a mouthful. Okay, we're going to go ahead and save this GIMP file here, variable width, because I don't want to have to recreate this if something goes wrong. Okay, so we have 4, 5, and 6. Now we want to go ahead and make variations of this background that are those sizes as well. So let's start with just number 4. What does this take? Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this so that I can just play around with a spare one. In fact, we're going to call this background 3 anthem. This is a background 4 anthem. And for the 4th anthem, we know we're going to be 40 pixels wider. That's very handy. So my instinct is to do a vertical slice just to the right of where this little filigree ends. And again, if we had the source graphic that created this would probably be an easier task, where we could go in and not have to, play with pixels like this. But such is the life of a plugin maintainer coming into a project like this. Sometimes you just have to recreate the wheel, as it were. So we've gotten just that part. Now we can see over here on the left, we are skipping out on part of this curve down here. So it's actually going to benefit us to do this in 2 pieces. The part on the top, getting as much as we can without messing with this filigree in the background, and then the part on the bottom. So what do? We're going to go ahead and cut this and paste it. And that pasted is going to be right border, upper right. Lord Zach says before, but I'm not sure if it's a prelude to something else. Let's see what comes in. Excellent. Lord Zach says, on the plugin page, there is a screenshot with 6. Yes, one of the features of the MinstrelBuff plugin that was there long before I got on the scene was a wide variety of themes. So for instance, the fixed anthem theme, which, though it is using the wrong backgrounds for some of these because those anthems don't exist anymore, just gives you a single place for each anthem. Now, a problem with this, if problem it is that it might place each anthem of the Third Age onto the Third Age anthem spot without caring which type it is. Not sure, haven't tested that. In fact, let's do that right now. All right, we're going to go ahead and regenerate our 3 ballads using a healing version of Major Ballad. And we're going to go ahead and pop that in there. Yep, we can see that we're just tracking. So this feels like an older style. We can tell that from the anthems that are no longer in play in the game. That maybe predates the fact that you can have different versions of Anthem of the Third Age. And so that's not optimal for my purposes. And as we click along, we can see there's a variety of different themes here. But for my purposes, I really actually do like the compromise between aestheticness of this Windows standard and the information it displays. I believe there's people who use like the no window drawing where it's just this stuff, and it's fine, right? It's fine. But for me, I prefer the combination here with a little bit of visual nicety. Just the bare hint, but that visual nicety is actually causing us problems here. So we've pulled out the upper right border, and now we're going to do the same thing with the lower right, where we go ahead. We're going to want to go ahead and make that a couple of pixels wider to catch this down here, and I'm not able to cut because the region is empty. Make sure we have the correct layer selected. Go ahead and cut, and we'll just immediately paste that, and that's the right border, lower right. Okay, so what does that mean for us? It means that we should be able to arbitrarily move these to the right. Now, if we want to be really lazy, we can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and so on. There's more elegant ways to do this, but why not? We've moved it 40 pixels to the right, and we can kind of tell that that's correct if we turn on the fourth layer here. Well, you know, I say that. What's up with the distance here? We have 1, 2. Okay. Oh, this one was not far enough over. Well, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and move that one over. That means the other two were probably 1 pixel too far to the left as well. And we're dealing with such a small UI, 1 pixel does matter. Okay. So that's wide enough for our purposes. But we're going to need to fill in this top bar here with something. Lord Zach says there's a screenshot with 6, but 4 lasts are empty. Interesting. Well, let's go ahead and get on the same page. I'm going to go ahead and pull open the LOTRO interface, lotrointerface.com website, and we'll go ahead and go to MinstrelBuff. Excellent. Thank you, Melida. Okay. So, I believe you are talking about this one. And let's see if that theme is still in existence. Well, I can't speak to which theme that is. It certainly looks like what we're trying to do here. Now, maybe it didn't make it in. It's certainly possible that it was in there at one spot in time. So, you know, why not? Let's go back to older versions and figure out. So theme. Let's see. Theme support. Okay, so that was introduced in version 4, it looks like. So what about version 1.3? Let's go ahead and download that. Whoops. All right, so we've downloaded an older version. This version was actually last uploaded in 2011, which sort of tells you just how long this has been around. We're going to go ahead and extract that zip file and take a look at it. All right, in the resources, no, we can just go ahead and drag this in. Ooh, good catch. Now, I don't actually want it in this file. So let's go ahead and do an open, and we're going to downloads, MinstrelBuff window, resources, and background. Nice. Okay. This is going to actually make our life way easier. Good catch, Lord Zach. Thank you for calling that out. Now I'm curious what's up with the other ones. Okay. That's the clear. Nice. Also, clear fixed. Okay, that's got those backgrounds. And background fixed. Neat. Okay. So definitely what we want to work with here is just this full-size version. Great catch, Lord Zach. That saves me from, now instead of having to recreate these lovely corners and whatnot, I'm just going to go ahead and cut stuff back. So this was a really interesting approach. We're going to go ahead and just throw it away and instead save this, and we want to be in Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, MinstrelBuffs, and again we're going into Resources. Oh, actually this file I want to save in Source Files. Okay, so we're going to save, what? Cool. Okay, so this is attempt 2. We didn't throw away the old one, so if for some reason this doesn't work, no worries. Now, one thing I do notice is that this is wider than the image itself, and that's okay. But what that can mean is that when you have this, you have a bunch of opaque space in the background, and that can be places where your plugin can draw, even though you don't have a fancy background. Like there's space here for a 7th anthem, a 7th timer almost. I think for our purposes that's not going to be necessary, so we could shrink this down using the image crop to content button. But I'm going to leave it there right now so we have space to wiggle around. Okay, so we have, we're going to call this 6 anthems, background, 6 anthems. Excellent. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. And we want to go ahead and call it 5 anthems. And we're going to go ahead and play around just with this new layer, so we still have that original layer to go back to compare, to contrast, whatever. All right, but for this part, this one's ridiculously easy, right? If we go ahead and just select the 40 pixel wide. Oh, that's funny. The right border here is not correct. Let's actually zoom back in here. We can see here that there should be this gray color. I'm going to go ahead and eyedropper it, and that should actually extend along the right wall here. And that was just, looks like it was missed out. So if we go ahead and draw that on down, and draw that on down, that'll be the full gray border all the way around. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I would want to import that into the 5th one, but I am about to delete the number 6 there where that happened. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do a selection here. Really? Make bigger. Okay. And we do want that to be 40 pixels wide. We can see that it is 40 pixels wide. And for us, that means we can just go ahead and delete that. And all we want to do then is go ahead and drag the next part over. Now, there's not really a concept of dragging in GIMP, so we're going to go ahead and cut and paste that sucker and put it where we want it to be, right there. Awesome. Now, right now we've got 2 pieces then, the everything but the right edge and the right edge. I actually want that right edge to be a part of the 5 layers, so we're going to go ahead and merge that down. Cool. All right, so we have a 6 and we've got a 5. And now we do it all over again. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this layer. We're going to go ahead and call it 4 anthems. And let's go ahead and select anthem number 5, including that gray edge on the right and the space here. Delete it. And same thing, we want to go ahead and cut that right edge and move it on over right there. And I just want to merge that on down so it's part of the 4 anthems. Okay, so we've got a 4 anthems, a 5 anthems, and a 6 anthems. That is delightful. Now, the real question is, do we want to replicate this, or do we just go back to the original, right? Ideally, let's see, open recent? Do I have that? They're the same file names. That's going to make it harder. Okay, so we're going to come into MinstrelBuffs, resources, and go ahead and get that background. Okay. Now I kind of wanted to open it as a layer, which is the thing you can do. Open as layers, and we're going to go ahead, MinstrelBuff window, resources, and background. There we go. Okay. My real question was, what did they change anything else when they pulled this forward? And the answer is no, I really am not seeing a whole lot. I do kind of like the right upper corner a little bit more. We can see that in a little bit closer detail. But I think it's fine for our purposes. And this avoids a problem that I was already starting to think about, which was this blue bar at the top is a gradient. And I was already trying to muddle through what is that going to look like. But the answer was, nope, we're just not going to do that anymore. And that works great for our purpose. Okay. Well, thanks, Lord Zach. Great suggestion. Great eyes to, great idea to go back and look at the original plugin and say, hey, maybe they already did this. So we have a 6 anthem wide, we have a 5 anthem wide, and we have a 4 anthem wide on top of the existing 3 anthem wide. So we just need to figure out how do we take those and make use of them. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to be concerned about all the extra space on the right. Lord Zach, time saved 30 minutes. Yeah, maybe. And more importantly, it looks better. Like, this is more or less pulled from the original author instead of me trying to recreate something like pixel by pixel. So, yeah, improvements all around. Let's go ahead and say background 3 anthems here. Okay, so what I would like to do is maybe start splitting these layers out into their own files. Now we'll just we'll export them and maybe pull them back in and truncate them as we need. Okay. Now, I think I feel okay about that, because one of the side effects of having the image be this wide is that if you drew the anthems here, they would show up. The trouble in game that we're seeing is the actual size of the window that we've said is only so many pixels, and everything that we're trying to draw outside of that gets truncated once it hits the edge. So having it be artificially bigger is maybe fine in this case, just in case we're not using the variable size now, we have a place to put those anthems. I'm going to say maybe. It's a very strong maybe. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and start exporting these layers. I've only got one layer turned on right now. I'm going to keep one layer at a time turned on, so we're only exporting the pixels we care about. And what is this going to look like? In the resources, we currently have MinstrelBuff bar background. And so what I want to do is, instead of replacing the original, I think I'm going to leave it there for right now. So instead, I'm just going to add 3 anthems. And this is, again, a TGA file, which is required to pull into the system. And when GIMP tries to save this, it's going to say, what is the origin, bottom left or top left? leave it at the default. LOTRO seems fine with it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do an export as, and it's going to be 4 anthems. Again, we're going to get RLE compression. Sure, that's fine. Origin bottom left. Sure, that's fine. I should say, if it is better not to do that, I don't know of it. It might very well be, but these work. Little Rings Online can load them, and that's the important thing. And finally, we're going to go ahead and export Anthem 6. Okay, and we happen to know that for all of these, the image size is 300 by 115. Great. Oh. Thanks, Moobot. Looks like the Treasure Boogan event is coming up on Thursday, lasting a whopping 4-ish days this time. And last time I found it a little confusing, so I'm hoping the community has kind of gathered some wisdom over there, that link to the Treasure Boogan event on the wiki, because I would love to get some wisdom of the crowds on that one. Lord Zach, exactly. 3 anthems is fine, but what about 4th anthem and 5th anthem? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write down in my side text file here that the size is 300 by 115. And for right now, we are done with image manipulation. We have the 4 variations of backgrounds we need for this flexible anthem. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that down for a moment, just in case. And then we're going to go ahead and come back into our code. Actually, let's see. Yeah, okay. So we were previewing that. Excellent. Lord Zach says, I was telling friends the other day that my LOTRO account was older than some of the players. That is definitely possible. And if anyone is younger than 15 years old and watching this, good luck with your plugin programming career. You have a lot of space ahead of you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close down some of these. So in our to-do file, kind of tracking what we want to do. To do. Add a setting to themes for multiple anthem scaling support or something. For more than 3 anthem support. Turn that setting on for window standard. Add image paths for 4, 5, and 6 to theme. Check for this setting and make use of it when adding anthems. And I shouldn't say make use of it, and load correct background when adding anthems. So that's kind of the thought process in my head of what does it take to support this. So first of all, we don't want to break any existing themes that we're not doing this for, which is, all of them except for the one that I use to start. But we could see how we could backfill this support to any of these others. The fixed anthems, maybe not so much, although one of these days I should fix those background images to be correct. But we could see that the no window standard could probably benefit from this. Anyway, but we're going to start with the one and make sure that works. So where do we have information on all of our themes? I'm going to look in the themes directory. We have a themes.lua, which I have just clicked the background window there. I'm going to shrink down our Explorer tab a little bit. Okay, so this is our theme list, and theme window is probably the one we care about. But we can see that there's a lot of data being collected here. So we have window background, the whole window. So we might add more than 3 anthem support. So that might be self.supports more than 3 anthems equals true. And the check will say, does this value equate to true? So if it's not there, that nil is going to equate to false. And so we won't try to do anything more. And then self.window background for anthems. Maybe we'll spell that out. For I worry about a single character, single digit getting lost in the name when you're just like scanning through really fast. Okay, and here's where we're going to go ahead and, whoops, there's some commenting there. Can be nil for no image. That's good to know. All right, so we're going to go ahead and copy this path, but we're just going to change it based on what we've got here. So that's the downloaded one there. Let's come on in. I'm worried that my naming conflicted with some of these others. Let's go peek on through here. For anthems. Well, now I've got myself curious. What was that? It was just a lie. Okay. So for anthems, top and bottom just supports 3. That's great. But it does suggest that in order to make it less conflicty here, in fact, who's using this? Okay, that's 3 anthems bottom, 3 anthems top. Is this a lie? It is a lie. Okay. I think they were maybe thinking they would do 4 anthems top and bottom, and that just never happened. Fascinating. Okay. Well, at least someone fixed the text that's being displayed. That's fine. But yes, it makes me want to go ahead and modify ours enough that they sort differently. So I'm just going to put the numbers at the end for now. There might be a better way to name these. But we're going to call it Anthems 4, Anthems 5, Anthem 6. Great. That is fine. Now the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and question what's up with the height here. This was always wrong. 115 was the height. Fascinating. Oh, that's the none. Okay, good. 115. Good. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and fix the width of this window to be 300. And that'll give us that padding space, even though it's transparent and shouldn't be clickable. Though I say that, let's double check my assumptions. If I click on the border, great. In fact, none of it should be clickable. Excellent. One of the dangers you can run into is if your window is big enough, even if it is transparent, it will block the mouse click from interacting with the screen, which by default is things like panning or zoom, well, not zooming, but panning, tilting, that kind of thing. Okay, so we have the more than 3 anthem support. Okay, so we've got now our anthems 3. I'm going to go ahead and use anthems 3 here. And then we can go ahead and swap in 4. And we want 5 and 6 as well. Great. So this is how I'm going to, for now, until I think of a better strategy, I'm going to go ahead and say that's a setting for more than 3 anthem support, and it's on for window standard, and the image paths for 4, 5, and 6 have been added. Cool. Now we just need to do something with that. So that was theme window, and we can double check that we've changed just what we want. In theme window, we changed the width. We changed that path, so instead of just background, it's background anthems 3. And I did that just because that way all the images have a consistent width, even though most of it is transparent. That way, otherwise, we would need to add a custom width and height to each one of these so that we could resize the window, and resizing the window just sounds like a pain. So we're not going to do that. Excellent. So at this point, we need to check the setting, check for the more than 3 anthem setting, and load the correct background when adding anthems. Great, let's do it. Now, this will be slightly complicated by the fact that right now there is not a good separation of concerns. Main.lua, or mainwindow.lua, no, main.lua is doing a lot of work that should be in buff window. And that may come back to haunt us. All right, so we've got an extra window up here. All right, let's first of all remind ourselves where in the code MinstrelBuffs is handling anthems. So in this case, for instance, once I get my major ballads here, what code is adding anthems here? And how do we know how many anthems we have? Okay. Now, I think it's in main, so if I just search for anthem, awesome. We can see anthem effect place is anthem fixed. And so anthem effect place is, I believe, the next spot that's going to get an anthem. Farrelton asks, will there be problems with clicking on a transparent image? That is, you can't click a control underneath it. Excellent question. And what we're looking for is in the API, we can tell a thing, a control in LOTRO, in a LOTRO plugin, that we do not want you to pay attention to the mouse. And it looks like that is set mouse visible. And so what we want to make sure is that set mouse visible is false unless we want you to be able to click on the plugin. Okay, I'm not seeing any set mouse visible to true, and one of the things that we know is that mouse visible is set false by default on controls, and we can verify that to ourselves if we want to. So for instance, we have a new MB main, awesome. That's a MinstrelBuff main, And in the MinstrelBuff main, we have buff win, something like that. Self.buffWindow. Awesome. So we've made that, and we can go ahead and say turbine dot shell dot writeline is buff window looking at the mouse question mark, and we can concatenate in a toString of self dot buff window get mouse nope is mouse visible. There we go. Thank you, extension. So we're going to go ahead and unload, reload. Oh, it says true. That's fascinating. Why would it say that? Well, it's good to check our assumptions. All right, buff window. Here we go. Oh, of course. One of the ways this thing is that buff window is a class, and inside of it, it has a self.window, which is where everything is actually done. It's a weirdness. I'm not sure why, but we can see the set mouse visible false is happening. So buff window itself as a window defaults to true for mouse visible, but buff window itself doesn't seem to have a size. It just contains another window that is itself being drawn on and is not listening to mice. That's an architectural decision that I am not comfortable with, but that's not a today problem. So we have excellent question. We are disabling mouse visibility. So that's self.buffwindow.window. I believe it is. Oh, but that hasn't been created yet until we do buff window start. Okay, fair enough. Buff window dot start. Really? Okay. What calls you? Well, doesn't really matter. Is buff, okay, there we go. Self dot window is mouse visible. Let's go ahead and load this up. What do you mean it's nil? You've been using it this whole time. I didn't save this other file where I removed it. There we go. Okay, so is buff window looking at mouse? False. Excellent. So that is the explanation for why whenever we click and hold well over the MinstrelBuff window, nothing happens. Or I should say, whatever you expect to happen happens. In this case, we're just moving the camera around. Okay, awesome. Great question, thank you. So in here, we have anthem effect place, which is to say main is positioning these anthems within the buff window. Not my favorite. And then incrementing. So we know here how many anthems we have placed. But if that's the case, then we can just go ahead and resize ourselves based on it. Okay, so assuming the anthem place is less than or equal to 6, of course. So this is where we explicitly hide the anthem. If we have fewer than 6 anthems, we go ahead and hide those extra spots that they could be placed in. Okay, this seems like a fine place to go ahead and change the background. In fact, maybe we'll do that first. So, do we have a theme here? Let's find out. Because we know, is Anthem fixed? All right, we're going to settings. Does theme show up at all? It does not. Cool. So settings get fixed anthem positions is looking at themes. Awesome. So let's go ahead and add a couple of helper functions here in the theme settings. Function settings does theme support extra anthems? So local theme equals self get theme, just copying from the function right below us. And then local supports does support equals theme dot supports more than 3 anthems. Nice. Now I might be getting into trouble here where I'm not actually using the same name in both places. Does theme support more than 3 anthems? Yeah, I don't like that wording. I already think extra anthems is better. So in the theme window, supports extra anthems. We're just going to be in that space. So we're not going to specify more than 3, just extra anthems is the mode that we're enabling here. Supports extra anthems. Okay. Does theme support extra anthems? Return support. Now we could actually just return that directly. Now this is either going to be nil or it's going to be true. That's the mental model we have for this. So in main, we can make use of that. We can come on down here and say if self.settings does theme support extra anthems, then if anthem effect place equals, so this is the next place. So if it is currently 7, then we want a 6. If it's a 6, we want a 5. If it's a 5, we want a 4. Sure. So if it is greater than 6, then pick 6. Else if anthem effect place equals 6, then pick 5. Else if anthem effect place equals 5, then pick 4. Else if anthem effect place equals 4, then pick 3. This feels like a lot of copy-paste style code. Like we're saying the same thing over and over. So I feel like there's a way we could kind of consolidate this down a little bit, possibly by taking advantage of a naming consistency. Like if we always know that there's a base name for these files, like MinstrelBuff our background anthems, and we always just knew _3, 4, 5, 6, then this becomes a trivial block. But I'm not quite ready to do that. I think we can get there, but spelling it out first, that's fine. And then we'll come back and clean it up. Okay, but what is this? We need these names. And a question is, where are we using window background? I'm already regretting spelling these out separately instead of doing entries in an array. So again, things are going to change. So buff window is using theme. So we can use self settings get theme. Awesome. We might also just have a helper function. Okay, so function settings get extra anthem background, anthem count, right? And here's where we're going to make use of that this code right here. Okay, so again, we're using a different variable. Okay, we're also it might make sense to go ahead and check for theme support. In fact, we can combine this, right? Local supports equals self does theme support, and then if it doesn't, we just want to return whatever the base theme is, right? So let's go ahead and grab that theme. So if not supports, then we're going to go ahead and return self window background, or theme window background, I should say. Theme dot window background. Well, I'm just going to copy paste that because I don't want to misspell it. Okay. So we're going to return theme window background. Okay, so first of all, that's covered, in which case, back in main here, we don't even need that part. And then we can outdent. Okay, so we know we support it, and now we just need to do something. So if anthem count is less than or equal to 3, then so local count to use equals anthem count. If it's less than 3, then count to use equals 3. Else, if anthem count is greater than 6, then count to use equals 6. Excellent. And here's where I have already regretted not doing an array. So self.window background equals a table, and then self.window backgrounds 3 equals just the normal self.window background. Self.window backgrounds 4 equals what we did do for 4 anthems. So window backgrounds 5 equals that. Window background 6 equals that. And now we have a number that we are constraining to be between 3 and 6. But that means we can safely use it to grab the name of the window background. So here we can just return theme.window window backgrounds and count to use. So at this point, we're really looking, this isn't an extra anthem background anymore, it's just window background. And the one thing is, we need to pass in an anthem count. Oh, can we do default values? I think we cannot, but we can just set it. If anthem count equals nil, then anthem count equals 3. That's totally fine. Okay. So we have a function, get window background, that is going to pay attention to, do we support extra backgrounds? And if so, use this anthem count to pick one of those backgrounds. And if we don't, then we're just going to return theme window background, which we know is synonymous with window backgrounds 3. Okay, so now we can just use this get window background in the buff window. We have theme dot window background is being used in the constructor. Buff window start. That's totally fine. Set anthem background from stance. Very exciting. Oh goodness, there's a harmony background. Maybe. All right, that's nil, 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 nil. Oh, no window fixed anthems. Okay, let's look at harmony. That's no window fixed anthems. Okay, that's that one. Let's look here. Minstrel buff bar background. Fixed harmony. Great. Oh! Yes, it is just changing the icon for Anthem of the Third Age. That's delightful. Well, then I don't need to worry about that because this theme is not using that particular capability. Okay. But it does mean, it really feels like buff window needs to know the last one that it loaded so that it doesn't try to reset the background. How is that going to work? Okay, I want a function in buff window that says set your background. We're already doing set anthem background from stance. That seems key. And those are the only two places. So let's add a new function. Function buff window update background anthem count. Awesome. Here we're going to go ahead and do what do we have? Set background, and we're just setting that. Okay. So we're doing a self.window set background I think it still does make sense to only try to do this for those things that support extra anthems. Because we don't even want to play around with this if we don't. Okay. If not, self.settings does theme support, then return end. Great. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and local background equals self.settings, and what are we calling it? Get Windows background, anthem count. And then we're just going to set it. Set background to background, and that's it. And then we can just call this from main. So here we have self.buffWindow, update background, and the anthem count is just one less than the anthem effect place. So anthem effect place -1. Okay, so that's a possibility. That might work. Now, ideally, we might add some debug capability so we can easily replicate this, but it's not that hard to go ahead and get 4 anthems just for a one-off right now. Great. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so we definitely have a plausibly working set of code because we've got 4 anthems and it's being displayed. That's so great. It's so pleasing to see code working instead of not working. Now, fortunately / unfortunately, my minstrel has an anthem duration of 2 minutes, thanks to some traceries. Well, a tracery. So we're going to have to wait a little while, but I'm going to go ahead and re-up the duration of my Anthem of War so that I always still have an anthem still going. Fairthan says, this is a big achievement for this plugin. Great. I know, we both have wanted this for a while. Believe you me. So we're going to wait a few more seconds for this to expire. Something's weird with my pillow. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to hydrate. Okay, what do we have here? 30 seconds. I should probably take off that legendary item. No, I'm somewhat kidding. So what my plan is to go ahead and add a button to just say, redraw with 3, 4, 5, or 6. And then we can just see it grow and shrink. But here we go. We're about to lose one of these anthems. Oh, that's so pretty. So good. Okay. And the other thing, actually, that we can play around with in code is we can come in here and for anthem effect place, we can just go ahead and say, you know what, we're starting in the 3rd place. So coming on in here, I'm going to go ahead and use my Cry of the Chorus, and that's so cool. Yes. And similarly, we can go ahead and start Anthem Place 4. Download within 5 minutes. You know, I'm pretty happy with this. I might go ahead and start packaging it up for distribution. All right, so we can see up to 6 anthems we're gracefully bumping about here. But of course, if we had a 7th anthem, we have left extra space in here. Oh, I think the plugin itself just like, no more than, there's a hard coding. Lord Zach is back. Welcome back, Lord Zach. We have just gotten visual confirmation that this is working, which is very exciting. And so what I've done for artificial testing is to just say, we start at spot 4. Oh, goodness. I did mean to unequip that legendary item so that at least the anthem durations when I'm doing them is only 1 minute. Let's go ahead and do that. And you know what? I would like to lock those while I'm thinking about it. Great. So now my anthems are 1 minute. But in the meantime, 30 seconds left on these, and we can see the window shrink back down as we have fewer. So in the sort of happy path, just playing as a red line minstrel, I still want to add the last say. Yeah, so when we're in buff window, we don't want to be setting this all the time. And so what I want to do is when we're setting the window, window background, great, self dot anthem count equals 3. Because in here, if anthem count equals self.anthem count, excellent, we can see it shrinking back up. so good. Lord Zach was swimming because it's so hot. Yeah, even here in the Netherlands, it was, I think, a high of around 38 Celsius or around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just a little hotter than I want it to be in a building with no substantial air conditioning.
Or
Even with air conditioning, I'm not a fan of using air conditioning for situations that don't require it, I guess. Like, yeah, if you're living in a place where it's 120 degrees, that feels like a life or death kind of thing. On the other hand, why are people living in a place if it routinely gets that hot, right? Like, global warming aside, like if you're living in a desert and it gets to be 120 degrees, it kind of feels like that's part and parcel of living in a desert. I don't know. That's a different discussion. Lord Zach doesn't know why the game lets us sell runes and stuff to enhance weapons. They should force us to use the Flame of Lendl to break them into sellable items or something with confirmation. Yeah, I don't have an answer on that. I do sometimes feel like, I mean, it's two sides of the same coin, right? Like, on the one hand, it's very frustrating when a game doesn't let me do a thing that I want to do, even if it's suboptimal or for some reason is like, oh, you really don't want to do that. I really do want to do that. So on the one hand, a game forcing me to do a thing is kind of aggravating. On the other hand, if the thing is really stupid, maybe the game shouldn't let me do it, right? So, yeah, like if you have something that should be disenchantable into like ancient script or whatever, and you're just selling the thing to a vendor, like that feels like maybe you didn't think that one through, or maybe you just didn't know, right? And so how do you have that discoverability where you learn that was not the right thing to do versus being, kept in a very tiny box where you can do nothing else? Oh. Well, I just ran forward. That was very silly of me. Lord Zach says, don't forget to remove is buff window looking at mouse. Oh. Yeah, fair enough. Now, one of the great things about using source control is that when we go to look at our changes, that's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And we can be like, oh, yeah, no, we don't want to do that. Boop. Great. But good call. In fact, let's go ahead and unload and reload. Now, where we were at here was that we're starting at position 4. So the first anthem plops right in there. The second anthem plops right in there. And right now, the plugin is hard-coded in many places to never do more than 6 anthems. And I think that's fine for our purposes. If you are able to get more than 6 anthems, let me know. Let me know what configuration results in that, and we'll maybe add, try to do... Lord Zach asks, why are we starting at 4? I missed that. Yeah, this was just a testing mechanism, because as a lone redline minstrel, it's difficult for me to have a 4th anthem, let alone a 5th and a 6th anthem. So for testing purposes, this just shows how the growth would happen if we were doing anthems 4, 5, and 6. So that's just for debug purposes. We're going to watch these drop off here, and then I'm going to go back and fix that. That's just so pleasing. I like it. Yes. The way that upper right changes is going to bug me. How much is it going to bug me? How much do I care? So what I'm looking at here is the default upper right corner, and we can zoom in on the problem. And this are subtly different. You can see there's a 1 pixel difference. 1 pixel difference about where that ends. And that aggravates me. I think... How much do I care about that? What's the fix look like? I think the fix is to slide one of them over by a pixel. I think that would really make a big difference. And it's easier for me to slide the one left. So what would that look like? Just, just out of curiosity. Yeah. Why not? The bottom corner. Forgot about that. Okay. Okay, well, what if we only slid this much over? All right, so 2 new layer, upper right. And also, what if we went ahead and captured here, but more of it? Oh, it really is just the very bottom, isn't it? All right. It's that bottom right corner that is going to cause me grief here. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and cut, paste, slide left by 1. This is the upper right. And in the bottom, we're going to go ahead and do this just slightly differently. Cut that, paste it in, slide it over by 1. And there's a problem here, lower right, with the transparency. I really just want whatever this transparency is. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. Oh, yeah, that's good. And at that point, there's like a pixel off, but it's less of a problem. Oh, I did this all with the original. Background 3 anthem adjusted. We're going to go ahead and merge these down. Merge down. Merge down. And we're going to go ahead and open as layer that original one that I should never have gotten rid of. MinstrelBuff, resources, and that's the background. There we go. Okay, so now we can kind of compare these two. What else is up? The blue bar, the end of the blue bar is subtly different. I think that might drive me bonkers. So we're going to go ahead and copy the last, the last couple of pixels here on over. And so in here, it's going to look like that. Merge that down. Now there's some coloration differences, but I think I'm probably going to be okay with that. So let's try that out, where we've adjusted that 3 anthem. And we're going to go ahead and export that as anthem 3. And let's go ahead and unload. Let's reload this, and let's take a look. Now, switching between 3 and 4, yes, okay, I can deal with that. There's just a subtle shift at that right border into the slope, but you don't have the whole thing shifting over by a pixel and more serious color changes. So I can deal with that, I think. Yeah, okay. I mean, it feels so silly to care about 1 pixel, but I know I will see that every time out from here on out and be like, oh, I should have done something about that. And I'll never find the time. So it was now or never. Okay, and here's the little efficiency that I wanted to do, which is to say we do not want to update this background every time. We just want to update it if it's different, because I want to assume that, or I'm going to assume that it takes a certain amount of computational effort to load a background from file and swap it in here. In fact, we should probably be caching these as images, but so loading that from file and putting it in here. And so I only want to do that if we need to. I don't want to just say, change your background, change your background, change your background to the same thing over and over. Now, it might be under the covers that the control will have some sort of, oh, I already am that, I don't need to change. But I have to assume that it does not do that, that it just says, okay, loads from file, puts it in there. And so I want to avoid calling set background if there's nothing to change. All right, so if the anthem count equals self, then return. Otherwise, grab that background, set the background, and then update the anthem count. Oh, right, of course. So let's unload, let's reload. Let's go ahead and activate an anthem. So we have anthem number 4, anthem number 5, and anthem number 6 in this testing version. Okay, that is lovely. Now, what we did in there was in main, we said we're starting in place number 4. We're going to dial that back to place number 1 for the final release. Okay, I'm going to pull up our source control and we can start glancing at that. So I think I'm very happy with this 6 version that we got from the original plugin and then just cutting it down into pieces. So I'm going to say that's the authoritative version, and my halted attempt to do this by expanding does not need to exist anymore. That's great. What? Could have sworn I saved that. Okay, and we can see stuff expiring. Oh, so good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of the first version. And I think actually we'll go ahead and rename 2 to just 1, variable width. So we have added variable width, logic, and images. So that, this. What do we have? Theme window. Theme window, these changes. And again, this is just the one theme, but you could easily see how if you had the images for another theme, you just throw supports extra anthems to true, and you set up your array with entries for 3, 4, 5, and 6. So anyone could do their own custom multiple anthem thing. I might get around to it eventually for other ones, but I'll definitely want to play around with this for more than 2 or 3 minutes to make sure there aren't any weird edge cases or bugs or whatnot. And maybe Farathan can help me test that. So we're going to go ahead and say yes. We're always using, we're switching to using that 3 background either way. And the size of the window is going to be the full 300. And then, yes, we support extra for 4, 5, and 6. Love it all, stage. All right, our to-do file is actually getting better. So check for that and done. Awesome. But that reminds me, our README file, which is a little bit out of date, check for missing entries. Before, that'll be a note to me, but we have gone ahead and added support in window standard theme for more than 3 anthems. Okay. And I do need to go and catch up the to-do file, I think, because I'm pretty sure there was something in here that hasn't gotten in there. Probably several things. Okay. back to our source control. So we have self.anthem count equals 3. 3 is a good default. That's the normal one that we're defining. And then update. So first of all, if the theme does not support extra anthems, then don't worry about it because you're never going to have a different background. But anthem count checking, this would also prevent us from doing that. So maybe this is redundant. Actually, it kind of is redundant, isn't it? If it starts at 3, no, it's not redundant because we're still getting the count of anthems. Okay, so we do want them both. So, do we support this? Has it changed? Then grab the background, set the background, update the count. All that sounds great. Main. We have an extra new line that has crept in there. It's not a big deal, but I like to avoid committing things that aren't intentional changes. So in main, we managed to do a very minimal thing. It just said, update your background. Awesome. Our README file, we've added an entry, and then settings. We added 2 helper functions. Does the theme support extra anthems? And get the window background. Now, we noticed this doesn't take into effect that that special background change for war speech or whatnot. So this is again targeted for the extra anthems thing. It's not going to play nicely yet with the fixed theme background thing. But we'll go ahead and stage it as is. It's lovely. And then the final thing, debug options, not relevant. So there we go. We've gone ahead and gotten ourselves a variable width, minimum 3, maximum 6 variable width UI. Lovely. I'm going to go ahead and reload it now that we've made those changes. Great. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was seeing a thing in the upper left-hand corner, but it's not related to what we did today. Okay, and we can trigger the 4th spot here easily enough by switching over to a blue stance, activating our 3 ballads, and activating our Anthem of the Third Age resonance. And there we go. Delightful. I'm looking forward to releasing this. I don't know if I feel like I have time to do a proper release. Last time I did a rush job and missed a file, and that was embarrassing. So I think I might work on doing this release maybe after today, maybe sometime tomorrow, but definitely pop this out for public consumption this week. And that'll be very exciting for people to see. So what are the first steps? Well, I definitely want to flesh out that to-do file. And for that, we're going to take advantage of our source control repository. Flesh out the README file. So made changes for easier maintenance and possible speed improvements. That was a while ago. Updated chat monitoring, friendly check for message from advancements. That was a while ago. I don't even remember doing that. So let's go ahead and open up our source control and just glance backwards in time. Okay, a thing, and I wonder if I can do this, search for a path of readme.txt. Can I do that? Unfortunately, a thing that I'm not very good at is all the extra stuff that you can do in a tool like this. There we go. So in this README, that's where we made the changes. The last time I've updated the README file was April, which my clock tells me is not this month. So let's go ahead and step forward. Okay, there was an attempt to do some stuff, nice, but we're not there. War speech, awesome. Let's go ahead and update that. Added a war speech display optional war speech effect display. Yeah, that's it captures it anyway. All right. Added melodic interlude window. Okay, excellent. Dun, 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 dun. Melodic interlude, more melodic interlude. Simplify the setting system. That's an internal change, and so for changes that shouldn't be visible to the end user, I tend not to put those into a README file, or at least definitely not in the consolidated release notes. Let's see. Yeah, I think we'll not bother to mention that. Okay, made generic, okay. Yes, add those. Review changes, yeah. Fix missing setting. Okay, that's again just a more bug fixes than actual player facing. All right, allow you to specify melodic interlude size. Excellent. All right, and added support for more than 3 anthems to whatever this is called. Window standard theme. Yeah. And Alpha says, shouldn't it be optional melodic interlude window too? Yes. That would be nice and consistent, wouldn't it? Thank you. Good point. And then war speech. Awesome. Okay, serious business is in there, so we've got all of that. Nice. Might even say, added option to scale melodic interlude window. Increase. Okay. We added an option to increase, decrease size of melodic interlude window. I mean, that feels part of making the window. Let's make it more declarative. Melodic interlude window size can be adjusted through the options window. Note. There we go. Lovely. Added support for more than 3 anthems, and that's our missing intros. Ah, haha. Yeah, I prefer that message better. There we go. We've got a nice updated README file. That wasn't so bad. Thank you, Source Control, for making it easy to know what I've done. Easier, anyway. Updated README file. Great. Okay. Well, if there's no other thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever, I might go through the process of building up my release artifacts and then, follow along at home if you like. So a thing that I like to do is go ahead and save off my online descriptions and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. First of all, let's revisit what the MinstrelBuff patch site looks like. And at this point, it's becoming increasingly mislabeled because MinstrelBuff Without a Combat Timer is how it started, and now we've got all these other things like the Soliloquy of Spirit Tracker and the War Buff, and so on and so on. So, or War Speech, I should say. So, but the whole point of it originally, and the big point, was to capture when do ballads expire. And so that's, I'm good with these pictures being like that. Here, we do have the Soliloquy Spirit Tracker, awesome. And for serious business, there's nothing really UI related, but war speech timers. We can go ahead and get some artifacts for that. Let's see. I'm going to wonder where I can punch something. Like an orc, not just a generic thing. Okay, let me pop into Karn Doom for a second. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from 21st Hall. Excellent. Some of the concessions that the people at Turbine and then SSG have made to a video game, and players playing a video game, do sometimes interfere with the immersiveness of what is otherwise a very immersive game, where it's like, yes, I'm just going to pop out the back door of the 21st Hall and end up in Karn Doom, and it's a very reasonable thing to do from a MMO video game perspective, and a somewhat brain-twisting kind of thing to do from a lore perspective. What are you going to do? So, in preparation of taking the screenshot, I'm going to go ahead and launch the snipping tool and make sure it's in mode rectangle snip. And then when I'm ready for it, I'll go ahead and click the new button. I'm going to drag it off the side here so it's not underneath my game window. Then I'm going to go ahead and attack this Uruk Lieutenant. But then I'm going to be concerned because my war speech isn't showing up. Did I forget to turn it on? No, it's supposed to be there. Let's go ahead and cycle that. Or was I just so slow that it went away? What is going on here? I'm getting it. I have a feeling that there's a stance change issue that I might be missing. So we're going to go ahead and do this one more time. Oh, wait a second. Yes, it is a stance issue, but it's not a plugin issue. I'm still in blue line. That's nice, actually, that the plugin is just working correctly. All right, so I've hit the new button, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle over what I was looking for. And I think that actually comes through on the stream, which is very cool. And now we have this. Oh, it kind of makes me sad, though, that the anthems aren't there. All right, let's go ahead and get those anthems in place. Okay, so we have a screenshot with 3 war speech timers. Awesome. Let's come back in and check out how much border were we giving these things. Okay, not a lot. So we're going to go ahead and move this into something a little bit more edit-friendly. In this case, just MS Paint. We're not going too wild on the tools here. And we're just going to go ahead and crop this. There are better tools for this, but this is certainly an easy tool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and save that and place that in the docs folder here. And so this is what even version is this? Let's see. We were working with version 1916, so this is going to be 1917. So this is war speech. Yes, that was Little Redhead passing behind me. Well, there's a cat in here too. You want to be on stream? No? You want to follow her? She is pretty interesting. Okay. So we have a war speech. Awesome. And now melodic interlude. That's actually a little annoying to replicate, but when we are in, let's go ahead and make sure it is visible. War Speech will activate based off of some of our skills, and so we're just going to go ahead and find some things to attack. If I could just drop on down. Probably unhealthy. New plan. Go to a place that's slightly more populated. So when I first encountered Carden Doom, it was this massive, sprawling complex, and it is, but it feels a little vacant sometimes. Like, oh, here's a little clump, here's a little clump, but then you defeat them, and it's like, oh, there's massive hallways to walk through, which is fine. Let's go into school.
The school at Farmyard was once a pinnacle of learning during the age of the noble.
Let me pause a new game for watching the stream. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and try to get Melodic Interlude to trigger. And when we do, we should be ready to capture it with a snapshot window. So snip. All right, it is up on my other screen. One of the things I really love about Minstrels is their maneuverability. They have no induction bars on their offensive abilities, and so I don't know if it's like I'm a nervous clicker or something, but I really just dislike standing still unless I'm, I don't know, eating while I'm playing and then my hands are otherwise occupied. But otherwise, it's just, I don't know, like a nervous habit to just keep my character moving all the time. And I think in some cases, if you're dealing with a melee target, the pathing or the combat mechanism in LOTRO seems to favor moving rather than just standing still. Like some of their hits just won't land as much. There we go. Ow. No, I hit the wrong button. All right, 10%, here we come. So like this melee warrior, if I'm constantly moving around, it feels like, even though it should be landing hits at the same rate, that sometimes it doesn't. And I think Little Red had noticed this before I did. I came into the game assuming that even if you were walking away from it, it would be walking towards you at the same speed and it wouldn't matter. But it does seem to reduce how many times they're hitting you in a given time span. And so that just plays into this more, where maybe it helps with combat, maybe I just feel like it does. And either way, it's just plays in how I want to be anyway. And so when I switch over to another character, even a hunter, unless they're in their mobility stance, but like lore keepers and whatnot, it just feels frustrating to my playstyle to have to not move constantly. And so, yeah, I'm addicted to the mobility of minstrels. So if that's a playstyle that appeals to you, I recommend checking them out. Now, you can't do that when you're healing. It's only all their combats that don't have inductions. Most of the heals have inductions. There we go. All right, I wanted to get. There we go. I was hoping to get it without, enemy faces in right to the side of it. And we finally have that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, again, just copy this out to something like MS Paint. Lord Zach says, before we'll dive from MinstrelBuff's footage. No, maybe. I mean, that might happen, but that's not the intent. Zach just noticed that my frame is a rainbow. I did put a little rainbow behind there. In the Netherlands, it seems like the Pride month is more July than June, but mostly it was just like I forgot to turn it on. Like I had it there and forgot that it wasn't on. And so I wanted to make sure that I had it at least part of the year, if not the whole year. Okay, so we have a 1.7 MinstrelBuff Combat Timer, and this is a Melodic Interlude. All right, let's go ahead and let's see. Lord Zach says that they like Runekeeper Lightning because you have all these instant casts. That sounds excellent. All right, we're going to go ahead and pop out of this instance because I think that was all I really needed. Oops, read me. Okay, so we've got fix some stuff, updated chat memory. Okay, that's a fix. Made changes, that's fix. Yeah, even that I'm not sure needs to be in a readme, but whatever. Tell people, why not? War speech, we have got that. Melodic interlude, cool. And then, more than 3 anthems. Excellent. So let's go ahead and activate that. And I think I've once again closed my snipping window. I need to stop doing that. Cool. And we're just going to go ahead and save this off also. So this is why do I keep forgetting the name of this theme? Windows Standard Extra Anthems. Okay. Awesome. Now, that reminds me, I believe I need to do a version bump. So let's do that too. To do a version bump, there's a couple files we want to make sure we change. We want to go ahead and collapse down some of those folders. Okay, so in the MinstrelBuff's parent folder, we have the MinstrelBuff's Plugin Compendium. That one we're not changing right now. I'm hoping to maybe get some support for patching into the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. But in the meantime, we're just going to go ahead and do our MinstrelBuffs.plugin file here. And then, is that sufficient? Probably. Let's go ahead and unload and reload. And it looks like it's checking the version correctly by asking LOTRO what is the version for this plugin. Excellent. All right, what else do we have in our docs? So we've got images. Those are important images. And I suppose I should figure out where are these other ones being hosted and replicate it. All right, looks like I used Life Beyond the Shire. Casper's in the doorway. That's so unusual. Too bad I don't have treats to lure him. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find the location. I'm doing this off screen because FTP is a little off topic, but if you have an FTP client, I'm using Core FTP, it's usually pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and drag these new images in there. I've done a terrible mistake, and I named those images with spaces, which is just not healthy when you have online file names. So I'm just manually replacing those spaces with underscores, which is just the kind of thrilling content you're here to see. Okay. And then the final file. Okay, so what we have here is up on the Life Beyond the Shire page, we're going to go ahead and check out 7-warspeech.png, and great, we can see that active. Okay. So now we can go ahead and start editing text because all the images are available. Image captions, we're not changing that because that's just referring to these four. And now plugin description. Great. Now this is just a standard text editor, in this case, Sublime Text. And we're going to go ahead and maybe make that a little bit bigger. Okay, what do we want to change? Let's maybe put this side by side with the page we're editing. All right, ballad expiration, that's the big deal. Okay, so Locust Spirit, nothing's really changed there. But we can go ahead and add a new section. And that's going to be, whatever was next. Melodic Interlude. In fact, now might be a good time to go ahead and make a new section for each of them. Oops. So that was Melodic Interlude. We also want War Speech. And we want support for more than 4 free anthems. Awesome. And then as we're adding more themes, we could just expand that section, probably. Okay. And what is this going to look like when we have an image? We're going to go ahead and have an image tag, and that's just going to use these file names. So for Melodic Interlude, that file name ended up being this. For War Speech, that file name ended up being here. And Windows Standard Extra Anthems. There we go. Okay, so at least we have a section header, and we have an image that's going to go there. So what else? All right. We can just kind of mimic what we did before. New in v1.9.1.7, you can enable the Melodic Interlude Tracker window in Options. Once enabled, this will pop up a window whenever your, what is it called? Gotta change back to red. Here it is, freedom. Whenever your freedom trait triggers the melodic interlude effect, this effect unlocks healing for a friendly target. Well, and oh, I've got a cat on screen. Oh my goodness. Aha! The shy cat is on stream. Nice. Ah, first streamer in the house to get Casper. All right, this effect unlocks healing for a friendly target while in dissonance stance. Healing for a friendly target for 10 seconds on a distance stance for 10 seconds. Cool. And then we have example. Cool. All right, that seems enough for melodic interlude. War speech. New in v1.9.1.7, you can enable the war speech display in options. Once enabled, this will draw an 8-second timer below your ballads for each war speech. This effect grants plus 5% tactical damage. Yes, plus 5% tactical damage. And it is good to have 3 of them active. Visualizing them helps you to keep all 3 or speeches active. There we go. Something like that. Describing things is hard. Lord Zach suggests, before try Windows plus Shift plus S next time you want to snip out of the game. Maybe that'll work. Oh. Wild. Okay, I don't know if you can see that overlay that just popped up, but it says draw a shape to create a screen snip. Well, that is bonkers. Thanks for that recommendation. I don't know if I'll be working that into my workflow, but it's certainly faster. Thanks for calling that out. So that was Windows plus Shift plus S for snipping, I assume. Cool. Thank you. Okay, we have support for more than 3 anthems. New in v1.9.1.7, and this is just automatic. I didn't even think about making this optional, but the alternative is it just is terrible. So I don't even think it's going to be an option. The window standard theme will supports up to 6 distinct anthems simultaneously. The window will grow in size to fit as if there are more than 3 anthems. Okay. Lord Zach, maybe it's too slow moving for a game. I think it's fine. I think it will definitely take me some practice to shift over to that system, which definitely looks like a more modern implementation of a screen grab system. It was just not what I was expecting. All right, so we have this. All of that looks good. The installation and setup hasn't changed, except we should go ahead and change the version. 1.9. Cool. And then we can go ahead and... Whoa! Last release was in March. Where did the year go? Added... My goodness. So much. Added... more speech, display, melodic interlude, window, support for more than 3 anthems, in whatever, window standard theme. That's really the big one. Fixed several bugs. See README for details. Okay, so that is our theoretical text file change. Oh, except I've been modifying the 1.6 version instead of actually making a 1.7 version. That's embarrassing. Okay, so we've made those changes, and now we can come back into our source control and revert the 1.6 changes in favor of making a new 1.7. All right, added release artifacts. So image, 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 new text, and updated version. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and do a stash on show debug options equals true. So that at the moment, this is a release or a clean directory for us to use for staging our release. If I unload and reload MinstrelBuffs, let's just close those little tooltips. We can see in the options that we no longer have debug stuff enabled. The scrolling, scaling bar is still there. It's the bottommost thing that we see. Hopefully it's discoverable. And that's excellent. Everything else still seems to work. Great. Awesome. So, at this point, with a clean plugin folder, we can start packaging up the difference because this is a patch and not the complete thing. All right, fun. Let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my source control and my Visual Studio, and instead, let's go ahead and pull up, wherever this is. Plugin log releases? Maybe. MinstrelBuffs. There we go. There's a lot of stuff in here. So, you know what? Let's go ahead and pull out older versions of stuff and just put them away. Make this a little bit more manageable of a folder. Great. So our previous release was MinstrelBuffs 1.6. We're going to go ahead and start with that and figure out what's different. So I'm using a third-party file comparison utility called Beyond Compare. I recommend it. But whatever you have works, that works for you. So we're going to go ahead and update the .plugin file. And then we don't need any of the docs or source files or VS Code, plugin compendium, none of that stuff. So we can go ahead and open this up. Resources. We definitely have some new resources. Specifically, we have anthems 3, 4, 5, and 6. And one thing that we can also do is on the MinstrelBuff plugin, it can be helpful to go ahead and just say, what's different from the base, instead of just what's different from the previous. In fact, maybe I should be doing that instead. Let's go ahead and extract. Or maybe in addition to, I should say. All right, select that and select this. Okay, in resources, we can definitely see that the only new additions are 3, 4, 5, and 6. Awesome. And we've got those copied over. So from resources, we are done. What about themes? Now, all those themes were changed. So we're expecting to only see some differences here. Theme list doesn't change. Theme window, yep, that's where we got our changes here. Okay. Outside of themes, all of which are changed. All right. Buff window is different there. So we should expect to see buff window is probably going to be there here. It is. And here's all the different things that have changed over time. We're going to go through it really fast. Serious business, check for serious business, next war speech. I've got an add a callback. Interesting. Why did that change? Right. Right. The left is newer. Excellent. That is correct. That's what we're doing with the settings changes. Okay, we've got a save position. Awesome. Which then uses set window position. Great. All right, all of these settings changes. That's awesome. War speech time displays, great. Updating that background, that's the one we did today. We've gone ahead and simplified all the language checks, awesome. And spaced out this compound return statement so that at least it's a little bit more obvious what's going on. Personally, I prefer intermediate variables to capture the semantics of what's going on, but it's fine for right now. Okay, we're using, instead of table.getN, we're using the octathorpe symbol. Some people know it as a pound symbol or a hashtag, but octathorpe is probably easier. And that just is a semantic equivalent, and it seems to be the preferred newer way of getting the maximum number of integer indexes into a table. Or not the maximum, actually, the first point where the integer stops. So if you had keys 1, 2, 3, and 5, you would get 3, because that's the last point before the contiguous numbers stopped. So not necessarily the total number of things in the table, just the highest number that you can iterate through and not hit any null keys on the way. So, war speech stuff. All right, I had some notes here. War speech, great. Another octathorpe. Lord Zach has given some context for the octathorpe in the chat. Thanks so much. Yeah, so that term dates back to 1968, apparently, Bell Labs. And so if there's an older term for the octathorpe, I don't know what it is. That's sort of the original. And it's carried on. Well, sharp symbol in terms of music, but I think calling it a sharp here is probably not helpful. All right, set serious business, set check for serious business. All of that looks lovely. So we're going to go ahead and copy this over into the 1.7 release. So what else has changed since the previous release? We've got main.lua. We've got the melodic interlude window. Great. Melodic interlude, serious business, war speech, melodic interlude. Check. So all that seems great. All right. We've gone ahead and split out the effect changed callback into added, remove, and cleared. Oh yes, effect added, remove, and cleared. Instead of using a single callback, we're doing 3 callbacks in preparation for future changes. But that being said, we're not doing much with that. More table getNs, moving to octathorpes, and again splitting out 1 callback into 3. Interesting. Lord Zach says that they failed to rename the asterisk, or perhaps to give it a long-lasting name. Perhaps they could have stuck it with a different term. Okay, we have get effect from callback. That's a helper that we definitely added. Effect removed, effects cleared, and then we have a save position for buff window instead of all of this. Great, serious business. This sanity check-in is just making sure something hasn't crept in somewhere that we're like, oh, that was just for debug purposes. All right. The effect get name, we're splitting that out. Yep, a note to future self, great. All right, the update that we just added today. We've got some, we went ahead and did a block comment of the debug table helper. It really doesn't belong in the release at all, but as long as it is there, we don't need it to be loaded into memory. All right, and then again, more language cleanups. Awesome. Some information about melodic interlude, great. Language, and is valid deal. All of that's great. Okay, so we're going to copy that over. And then what's next that's different from the previous release? Minstrel effects. Ah, yes. Minstrel effects, I think we are no longer using at all. Oh, no, yes, we are. Because this file is just, and it's so hard to read from here. Let me go ahead and isolate that section. So what we're doing in the core Minstrel effects is just checking the client language and only importing the language file that matters. And then in those language files, we'll just have the tables here. But then we're not checking every usage. We are just doing it once when we're loading. Okay, so we definitely want that and the 3 language files. Oh, but I had previously broken out Minstrel Effects ASCII because someone was having problems with those. Awesome, let's take a look at that. All right, MinstrelBuffs, MinstrelBuff window. We had a convert files.bat. What was I doing with that? Oh, right. I made a quick little UTF-8 to ASCII converter. So we want to go ahead and run that, not on Minstrel Effects, but on Minstrel Effects DE and FR. And also on strings, DE and FR. Okay, let's go ahead and... Man, that line is so long. It's ridiculous. Minstrel Effects DE. Fairthon says the UTF-8 ASCII problem was solved with the hyphen thing. Was it? I mean, I'm happy to not do this, but I didn't want to mess anyone up if this was still a necessary thing. Well, I'm almost done spelling this out, but I think that is good to hear. Okay. Fairthon is saying that it was the time when the plugin didn't start because of that. I was thinking there was a pattern match issue with some of the UTF-8 characters not matching correctly. But like I said, I'm happy to drop this, as being overcome by events. But I mean, it seems a shame not to make use of it since I already have it, you know? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and process out the German and French versions. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Again, our branch here, we've got the updated convert files. Let's go ahead and run that. Dun, dun. So we're just going to go ahead and come on in with a command line window just so we can catch any output easily. Convert files. Fantastic. It's saying it couldn't find some files. I'm pretty sure that's because they weren't there. All right, and so we have a Minstrel Effects DE and ASCII. Sorry, I'm hearing cat plaintive noises upstairs, and I'm hoping it's not one of them being injured, but just them goofing around. So I haven't heard them screaming bloody murder yet. So I am thinking it's fine. Okay, so what do we have here? The ASCII stuff now. ASCII. We have the old. All right, French, English, German. Okay, we have string DE, English, French. Okay. So what does that look like if I refresh here? Instead of having Minstrel Effects ASCII, we'll go ahead and remove that from the release and do Minstrel Effects DE and FR. Okay. And yeah, Fairthon, if you want to kind of poke around, obviously if you don't need the ASCII ones at all, that's good news. And if you do, it's not that onerous to generate them. Our options window has gotten bigger and a little bit easier to generate with some helper functions. Nothing too weird looking here. Excellent. So we'll go ahead and bring that over. Our README, we've got the 1.7 changes. Oh, and the 1.6 changes, I'm assuming. Settings. All right, we've got our detect localization function. Set default of missing, excellent, which we're going to use. Fixing up numbers. Everything's just gotten a little bit better. Why does this say events to be removed? I'll have to come back to that. Generic window passing, yeah, main, locate, etc. Okay. Get window, great. Set window position. Get setting, set setting. Add callback, trigger callback. Detect localization, get effect localization name. Okay, and then the new stuff we just added today. All that looks great. We're going to pull settings over. We've got settings encoder. I think we ended up not doing anything with that. Let's see. What's different here? Oh yeah. Oh, this is where the is0 format is. Okay, yeah, we definitely would like that. And this is how I missed that is0. Okay, so we're going to bring over the settings encoder, and in that we've fixed a few issues, but also that's where the is0 format was hidden, and forgetting that was a big oops last time. So, whoops. All right, so local tracker window. We've got changing how settings are working. Great. Settings. Got rid of the get string. Great. No more get string. All right. A helper function, great. Oh yes, that was to annotate so that instead of calling this box get item, which is just a generic option, just a generic control, something. Here we're saying we're getting something from it, and that thing is a Sudoku tracker row, and that enables the IntelliSense. Okay, nothing too wild there. Set window position, get row. Excellent. We checked for a message equals to nil. Oh, I forgot. Did we have an I7 today? All right, I7, if you're in the chat, I can end whenever. I know you were not feeling well last week, and I didn't see anything about you this week. So pop into chat and say something if you, whenever you want to take over. I realize I'm 6 minutes over my time. But I figure he'd be saying something otherwise. Okay, so, yep, this was a bug fix. More cool stuff. Okay. Now, this is where we had to deal with some French specific stuff. Cool. All right. Okay, all of that looks great. We're going to pull over Soliloquy Tracker window. Strings, again, this is just where we're importing the correct file. So we need that. And we also need each of the broken out files. So we're going to copy that on over. But strings ASCII itself, we no longer need. All right, finally, what is type? Well, it doesn't seem to be a thing that we're concerned about. Type was already there. Excellent. All right, so we have not included a melodic interlude window. Let's copy that over. MinstrelBuff command. I don't think we've changed that. MinstrelBuff command. Oh, that's fun. We did do a dot constructor because otherwise it's a syntax error. All right. I mean, at this point, I'm dangerously close to just doing a complete to just doing a full release of. Okay, it's 2.0 time, and we'll just MinstrelBuff 2, Minstrel, yeah, I don't know, yeah, Minstrel 2 Electric Boogadoo. Okay, so we haven't done the class Dragmar or event helper or type, but we've touched almost all of the files at this point. So the next release might very well be a Minstrel 2.0. Let me know what you think about that. But I think, Melida, if you are out there, I'd be happy to return lots of this to you, but it may be that you have left the development community. Okay, so we have been able to highlight which files were original, which files are new, and at this point we have a 1917 release. Cool. Patches, especially a wide-ranging patch like this, feels harder to me than just releasing a new, a full release of a plugin, because then you just release the whole thing. I have to be a little bit more mindful here about, I don't necessarily want to release files that I haven't changed in the patch. But at this point, patch is becoming a misnomer, and it's just, yeah. Access 2.0 would assume you've rewritten from scratch. That's fair. To me, a major version bump could mean that, or it could just mean a major change. For instance, a change of, owner, not owner, but change of major developer. It could be like, oh, if you want the Melida one, you're in version 1. If you want the Cube one or B4 version, you're in version 2. Maybe, I don't know. I was just in like Travel Window 2, where Hios, I think it was, took it over from whoever had done it previously. Okay. So I am done with my comparison window. Awesome. And at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and package this up and release it to the world, and hopefully it works. So I need a new zip file, and I'm just going to use the Windows built-in ability to do this. And make sure it's named 17. And then remember, you want the folder in there to be the folder that comes out. In this case, I don't want the MinstrelBuffs 1917. I want the folder within that, just MinstrelBuffs, which is going to have the .plugin file. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and test this. In the downloads folder, I've got the original MinstrelBuffs, and now I'm going to go ahead and paste the 17. We're going to extract those both. Excellent. Oh, and before we do anything more, we're going to come on into our repository and go ahead and commit ASCII conversions for release. Great. So what I'm going to do to test this is I'm going to come on in to the plugins directory. And I'm not going to delete MinstrelBuffs because my repository is there, and that's going to make things weird. But what I'll do instead is in my downloads directory, I'm going to create just a folder to put these in. I don't want to delete things unnecessarily. So staged MinstrelBuff plugin for testing purposes. Don't be afraid to name your folders ridiculously long things. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just pull out the MinstrelBuff window and these things. It is in use, isn't it? Let's go ahead and close some of these down, try again. There we go. Okay, so at this point, this should be pretty clean. I've got my downloads folder, so MinstrelBuffs, we're going to go ahead and copy this on in here. And then MinstrelBuffs 197, we're going to go ahead and copy this on in here. Oh good, 21 duplicate files, replace. At this point, I should be able to, in my plugin manager, should be able to refresh, should be able to load, and everything looks good. let's go ahead and do some stuff. Great. Well, that seems plausible, so we're going to say that that's a good test. Ippy says, electric guitar LOTRO plugin. You know, you can do music in Lord of the Rings Online, and some of them sound modern-ish, some of those instruments. Okay, so we've got a successful test of the MinstrelBuff 197. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I have my stage stuff. I'll be cleaning that up afterwards. But in the meantime, we have a MinstrelBuff release. Let's get this thing out there. You can all tell me what I missed. So in LOTROinterface.com, if you have released a plugin or a patch, then you should be able to see an edit button at the bottom of that page. If you also need it on the home page, on the left side there is an list my interfaces. There's also upload and update. But I'm going to do it straight on the page for the MinstrelBuff without a combat timer. We're going to go ahead and do an edit here. And this is version 1.7. And we're going to replace the file with documents, plugin along releases, and this is MinstrelBuff's 1917 open. Now, the text editor, this is why we've pre-prepped this file. We're just going to go into docs. We're going to open up our text, copy it in from the other screen, but we're just going to paste that in here. And that way we don't have to try to come up with this on the fly in this tiny editor. We're all good. Now, it does ask, do you want to replace any of these pictures? I don't. We've added them in line. So at this point, we're just going to hit update. All right, click here if your browser does not automatically. Oh, it did. All right, thank you. Your interface for update has been submitted to our database and is now awaiting approval from one of our file administrators. This process can take a while, depending on how many other authors are submitting new or updated interfaces for us to approve. Your submission will be deleted if the file is incomplete, missing zip file, or the file isn't zipped, missing pictures, uploaded to the wrong category, files that were not modified are included in the zip, creating waste. Unknown executables, Visual Basic scripts, VB scripts, or other executable programs are included in the zip. Or if the interface / plugin is larger than 40 megabytes, and you uploaded it in multiple parts. We may or may not contact you if we decline your submission, just being honest, and we'll be scanning your submission for malicious files before it's available for public download. Neat. So all of that good information. I recommend you refresh your memory once in a while. That's why we just went through that exercise. Plus, the time it takes you to read it, your stuff might have already been approved. So if we go ahead, list my interfaces, we can see MinstrelBuff without a combat timer updated. Great. So hovering over the download, we can see we got the 197. So this is publicly available now. If you are interested in updating your Minstrel's Buff plugin, then this is how to do it. All right, and just checking the new text, new in 1.7. You can enable the melodic interlude window. War speech, new in 1.917. You can enable the war speech. Okay, and new in 1917, the Windows standard theme supports up to 6 different anthems simultaneously. Window will grow in size. Lovely. And because we already had those screenshots and uploaded them to the FTP server for Life Beyond the Shire, which is Little Redhead's domain, then they can show up in line here, even though normally you can only get up to 4 images hosted by LOTRO Interface. So that's a way around that. Okay, and we have our 1917. Cool. And now this issue of the missing euro normalize should be fixed. Hooray! Awesome. Well, this has been delightful. I'm really glad I got a chance not only to get that resizable thing. Thanks, Lord Zach, for your suggestion. That really sped that process up. And I think the end result looks prettier because of it. And we got this release done, which is super great. It's been a long time coming. And apparently there's like 6,000 downloads over the course of 6 versions. So it's like 1,000 of you who like this thing. So thanks so much. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. If you've got any last minute thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, whatnot, go ahead and throw them into chat there. I'm going to start closing some windows and get a drink of water. Then says they're also thrilled about the next performance test. MinstrelBuff performance or LOTRO performance? Actually, I am hoping to be able to stream next week with newer computer hardware. We have some items on order that might help my poor little laptop. Rather says, you think I've optimized a good bunch? I hope so. I hope this is generally as good or better performance than it was previously. Certainly we're reducing some of those checks for the language every time we do something, and the new features we've added, we haven't yet converted over how we're doing the effects list yet, but the new ones are taking that new methodology of just paying attention to the adds and removes and not recalculating every time. And I think we're going to be able to make use of that in the near future. But maybe that'll be part of that mostly rewrite that Lord Zach is talking about. Got another couple of windows that have popped up over there. Marathon says, "What's your payment per hour for the Runekeeper changes?" I'm curious, which plugin are you talking about for that? You said it was Runekeeper. Is it Runekeeper specific, or is it just a healing plugin? Oh, there is none for the Runekeeper. I thought, does something like combat analysis not keep track of healing for Runekeepers, or is there some other issue more at play there? It tried to adapt Frethen tried to adapt the MinstrelBuff one into a Runekeeper one, but it's harder than he thought. Yeah, there's a reason why I'm just taking the little small pieces and tweaking them. When I try to do bigger stuff, there's a lot going on here, and some of it's supposed to be there, and some of it maybe isn't as good. But it's a lot of moving interconnected parts. Like we're looking at how the main function is just digging deep into the buff window, and one of the things I would like to do, possibly as part of a 2.0, is just like, no, let's move that back into the buff window. Buff window just does all the buff window stuff, and main just says go, instead of half the stuff that buff window does being done from main, just poking around in the innards. Well, Farathan, if you have thoughts on what it would look like and what things it would track, maybe make some notes into like a little design document of what things you're thinking of. And while I'm not currently a Runekeeper player, maybe there's ways we can talk about perspective ideas once we have some notes written down. Anyway, that'll have to be a thing for the future. We're already at 22:22 on my clock, which seems like a pretty good time to bring it to an end. So thank you so much. I think that's everything we're going to cover today. This is super exciting. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I believe i7 is off this week due to illness, but I do hope to see you here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.